Saludamos a Yvan Guillemette, es Deputy Head of the Macroeconomic Analysis Division en la OCDE, en el Departamento Económico de la OCDE, y de hecho es coautor del informe que hemos conocido hoy. Yvan, thank you so much for your time and for giving this interview to Negocios Televisión. Yvan, fiscal pressure on the median OECD country could reach 8 percentage points of GDP by 2060 as governments try to keep public service standards and benefits at current levels. In Spain, the increase is 13%. How can governments alleviate these future fiscal pressures?
Well, we put the emphasis on fiscal and structural reforms. So one of the ways that fiscal pressures can be reduced is by finding efficiencies in government expenditure. So essentially delivering programs like healthcare and education and so on more efficiently, reproducing best practices and what's done in the countries that are leading in these areas. Another avenue that we put a lot of emphasis on is by boosting employment. So a lot of the fiscal pressure that we talk about in the report, that we measure, that we project over the next 40 years in the report, is due to demographics. It's due to population aging and the fact that the ratio of total population to employees is going to fall over time. And so anything that helps to boost employment, to raise employment rates, is helpful. So helping women get into the labor market even more, helping the young, particularly in a country like Spain, to get into the labor market, reducing the duality of the labor market that we know in countries like Spain, where there's a big difference in the unemployment rate between the young and the older population. So anything that boosts employment helps. Also helping to extend working lives, so getting people to retire a bit later as life expectancy improves is helpful, because again that helps to reduce this ratio of to boost the ratio of employees to population. So there are various ways that governments can meet the fiscal pressure. They can also take on more debt, but if a country starts with already fairly high debt, like Spain, then that option is limited. And so they will have to look at structural reforms and fiscal reform, efficiencies, and things like that. One thing that can almost certainly not occur, however, is to raise taxes a lot. I mean, taxes can rise maybe a little bit, but it's the kind of fiscal pressure that we measure, especially in the case of Spain, where it's over 10 percentage points of GDP over a 40-year period. It's not going to be possible to raise that much taxes, to raise taxes to that extent without having a very negative impact on the economy.
Mm-hmm. And Yvan, in your fiscal outlook, you suggest increases in average retirement age linked to life expectancy. Which could be the impact of this measure on real GDP per capita in the median country and in Spain?
Well, I wouldn't be able to give you the exact figures because I don't have them in front of me, but the principle is that we want to link expenditure programs that give rise to a lot of expenditure, like public pension programs, to the drivers of these expenditures, which are essentially increases in life expectancy. So we've calculated that in most OECD countries that have yet to link future increases in retirement ages to life expectancy. We use 2/3 of future increases in life expectancy, not to give the, we don't want to tell people that all increases in life expectancy should be spent working, but let's say 2/3 of any future increase in life expectancy spent working and 1/3 in retirement. and we estimate that could raise future living standards by several percentage points in the countries that have yet to do any reforms, and at the same time reduce fiscal pressure. I'm sorry that I don't have the exact numbers ahead of me.
And according to the report, these adjustments should be combined with structural reforms that increase employment rates, which could yield fiscal dividends. How much could they reduce the fiscal pressure?
A lot. I mean, we calculate that in the median country, we could cut fiscal pressure in half. But that varies across countries, and there are some countries where the increase in fiscal pressure is not that large, and we calculate that with appropriate reforms, there would be no rise at all in fiscal pressure. In the case of Spain, the projected increase in fiscal pressure is large. As I said, it's between 10 and 15 percentage points of GDP. We don't estimate that this could be totally eliminated by reforms, but a large part of it, maybe half of it, could be eliminated by the reforms, the stylized reforms that we look at in the report. Of course, we don't look at all the possibilities of reforms, but the idea that we want to emphasize is that reforms, and especially reforms that raise employment rates, have a large impact on fiscal pressure, and this is the avenue that should be focused on.
And Yvan, finally, what kind of structural reforms should governments tackle or address?
That depends on a country by country basis. So we don't, in this particular report, we don't go into country specific recommendations, but we present sort of stylized reforms. And so, as I said at the beginning, any reform that helps to raise employment, raise youth employment rates, raise female employment rates, even male employment rates. The overall employment rate in Spain is relatively low compared to other EU area countries, other OECD countries. So anything that helps to generate higher employment rates. And in the case of Spain, there have previous reports have pointed to this dual labor market that should be reduced, and extending working lives, as I mentioned, and other reforms to find efficiencies in spending programs.
Thank you so much, Yvan Guillemette, for having us a few minutes in Negocios Televisión. It's been a pleasure.